Welcome back to the John Krasinski Show, otherwise known as the Kingmakers. If you want to succeed in politics in America, what you need to do is come on TalkNorth.com, or more specifically, the John Krasinski Show. And who knows, you might be the next vice president of the United States.
I mean, it's indisputable, Jim, that the one who was picked was on this show, and all of the others who were not picked were not on this show. I don't think that you can draw a more clear conclusion as to what Kamala Harris was looking for in a vice presidential candidate than have you been on this show. And I mean, it's kind of an honor to be, kind of considered, but I'm not surprised. I mean, we provide a big platform, as our advertisers will tell you. So, but yeah, no, there's no disputing it. That is the thing that pushed Governor Walz over the top to get selected.
And if candidate Harris, we might even consider one of the Twitter questions she sends into this show regularly. She might, now that she picked Tim Walz, we might let her at least chip in on the show every once in a while.
Yeah, I've seen them. She's inundated my, the feed all the time. And I just would keep on denying and just swiping past. No, there are more important Timberwolves fans to address their questions. But now that she is kind of really pandering to us by choosing Governor Walz, maybe I will I will answer the question next week because she'll send in 6 or 7 of them for sure.
Yeah, very good of you. This is the John Krasinski Show, part of TalkNorth.com. And of course, we're being somewhat facetious, but we are actually being serious that Tim Walz did jump on the program to talk about the Timberwolves playoff run during the playoff run, which was a blast. Let's get to something a little more pertinent for Timberwolves fans here. Let's talk about Anthony Edwards, and let's talk about him in depth. Just had his birthday. I think he's 16 years old now, and we have a lot to talk about in regards to him. Just to remind you, John Krasinski Show is coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services studio. We want to thank Princeton Liquors, Chew Vision Institute, TSR Injury Law, and Shepherd Goods and Lamb Chops clothing line. Let's just get right to it. And I guess the other thing I should say, as I always do, if you like the show or any show at TalkNorth.com, and we have a great sports lineup, please subscribe to your favorite podcast app. It's free. It's the easiest way to listen, and it's good for our business. We do appreciate it. So let's start it out. First, let's wish Anthony Edwards a happy birthday, and let's contemplate how far he has come in the world of basketball. I mean, world literally, in the world of basketball in the last 2 years.
Yeah, it's amazing, Jim. I mean, he turned 23 years old. We're recording this on Tuesday. He turned 23 on Monday. And I think that a lot of the conversations that I have, not only with Timberwolves fans, but even with people within the organization who have been here a long time, who have seen the ups and downs, who really have a feel for sort of what they've been through, what the journey that this franchise has been on for decades. The kind of the overwhelming sentiment I get these days, just in general conversations that come up, is Anthony Edwards is a Timberwolf. And that's just like the statement. Like, can you believe it? Essentially, you have right now a player who is rocketing to a level of stardom, of marketability, of even success individually and with the team that this organization hasn't really seen. Now, we have had Kevin Garnett here. He had a remarkable amount of success. He was an incredible player for a very long time, and certainly an all NBA performer for years and years and years. And that's the way that Anthony Edwards is trending. But it even seems like the potential is there for him now to eventually leapfrog KG. Just in terms of, I'm talking, KG's an all-time great. We had the Athletic 100, and he was I think number 17 on the 100 greatest players list. Just one of the very best power forwards of all time. So fantastic, unbelievable player. But just in terms of the nationwide and even international stardom, I think that Ant is getting close to that and really has a chance to go past it, just in the marketability and how everyone around the country and many around the world are like, man, I like that dude. And that he wears wolves on his chest, I think it's just something that is wholly unique in the history of this franchise. And so people just keep on saying, man, I can't believe Anthony Edwards is a Timberwolf. And yeah, here he is, 23 years old now, and one of the most exciting, charismatic, fun to watch players in the league, is going to be a Timberwolf for still a long time to come.
Yeah, and I think you're hitting on something. Obviously, Kevin Garnett was a great, great player. And if anything, his departure from the Timberwolves, when they thought they would be able to leverage him into some assets, and maybe he was at the end of his career, was he reproved his greatness by going to Boston and doing what he did then. But I do think that most of us are not 7 foot tall. Most of us can't dominate anybody with size and arm length. Most of us grew up at least playing pickup basketball, if not organized basketball, and imagining doing the kind of things Anthony Edwards does. I mean, it's, even though Anthony Edwards is bigger, stronger, faster, more explosive than you or I could ever be, the average fan could ever be, we all have been in a driveway or on a court trying to do the kind of things Anthony Edwards does. We don't really identify with Kevin Garnett. He's like another species. Anthony Edwards is relatable because he's doing things with the ball in his hands. He's got a great handle, and we've all tried to make those kind of shots in our lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's become, I mean, for all of the dunks and explosive athleticism that he has, which is off the charts. And there's no way any of us could even become relatable at all. One of the, I think, things that has helped him sort of take his game to another level is the jump shooting and the handle, like you said, like the stuff that the step back jumpers, the spot up threes, and then the nifty slick handles to get to the rim with finishes under the rim. Those are parts of his package now that are being added and refined at a remarkable rate. And so now it has gotten to the point with Ant where he, when he gets when the ball swings to him in the Olympics, as we're watching, ball swings to him, defense is scrambling, and it finds him on the wing, and he raises up to shoot a jumper. Like, I just always think it's going in. Part of it is whatever clutch gene you want to talk about, but part of it is he's just really become a very, very good shooter. And that was a question, surrounding him coming out of college in Georgia. That was a question about, is he going to be able to add that to his game so that he isn't all just athleticism and dunking, and that you have some other things to keep a defender honest. And he's done that. I mean, he keeps adding all of these things, all of these subtle nuances to go with the unsubtle, just unbelievable jaw-dropping athletic moments. And so you just see a kid, still a kid at 23, taking his craft so seriously and adding to his game those kind of more scientific, if you will say, elements rather than just the artistic. And it's pretty just interesting and really intoxicating to think about where it can go from here. He's still only 23 years old.
Right. And that's what we all love in the world of sports talk and sports fandom, is what's next. What can you project? What can he add to his game at this point?
Yeah, I think that it's still right now what you see from him and what you want to see continue to evolve and develop is the understanding of it, the thinking of the game. And that's where I think, Jim, this experience with Team USA in Paris is so pivotal to him taking that next step. He is every single day around Steve Kerr, Eric Spoelstra, LeBron James, Ty Lue, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, some of the game's greatest thinkers and the most intelligent minds and players, especially, and teammates that you could ever ask for him to be around. And so he's able to not only, I think, watch them in practice in the games and see the decisions that they make in real time, but I think he's also able to have conversations. One thing that we've all noticed about Anthony Edwards in his 4+ years in the league has been that whether it was Patrick Beverley, Ricky Rubio, Mike Conley, any of the veteran type players who are in the locker room, the one of the defining characteristics of Ant Stay Here so far is when we walk into the locker room, he's asking one of those vets about something that happened in the game, getting their views on it. So this is a case of a young man who is not going to go into that Team USA experience and be bashful. There are some people who would be a little scared to ask LeBron James a question. Hey, what did you do here? Hey, why did you do this? What was happening here? Tell me what you were seeing. Ant will just do it. He'll walk right up to him and say, how did you see this? Or what was happening? And he will soak up that sort of knowledge. He's incredibly teachable and coachable. And so if that, coupled with his continued maturity and growth in the NBA, around Chris Finch, around Mike Conley and Rudy and everyone with the Timberwolves, can help him see the chessboard a couple of moves ahead. I think he's gotten much, much better at that over the last 1.5 or 2 years, but there's still another level for him to reach in terms of defining and identifying what defenses are doing to him and how to exploit that. And so I think that's the next step for him, is to take all of this unbridled athleticism, all of this overwhelming skill that he has, and now meld it with someone who is understanding the game and what his opponent is trying to do every night at a little bit higher level. And when that happens and when that all clicks in, then it's really hard to identify anything that you can do to really stop him, because he is so athletic, he is so explosive, that if he can also see the board a couple of moves ahead a little bit more and have a little bit more anticipation, then I just don't know what opponents are going to be able to do to slow him down.
Fun to think about. Let's talk about his relationship with Kevin Durant next. But first, tell us about Princeton's Liquors.
Princeton's Liquors in Maple Grove. Bill Princeton and the Princeton family have been in business for decades. If you want to support local, if you're looking for a high-end craft beer selection, great bourbon selection, THC seltzers and gummies, any of those products and more, go to Princeton's Liquors in Maple Grove. You can support the local companies who have been a part of this community for years and years, and Princeton's Liquors is that. Bill Princeton worked for the Timberwolves and Lynx. He was an intern in the early 2000s, wore the Crunch mascot costume or outfit in the summer of 2000, 2001. And so he's part of this basketball family that we all belong to. And so go in there, get the best craft beer selection you can find in the metro area and beyond, the best bourbon selection that you can find, and THC seltzers and gummies, which are now legal, and they have a wide variety if you're looking for those kinds of products. Princeton's Liquors in Maple Grove.
Scott for Aquarius Home Services. We all know our weather can be unpredictable, especially with our summer storms and hot and muggy temps. Be worry-free with a generator providing reliable whole home backup power to keep the lights on and your home cool and comfy. Plus, be sure your sump pump is ready to handle those heavy summer rains. For all your plumbing and electrical needs, we're just a click away at AquariusHomeservices.com. Aquarius, earning the right to be recommended.
Let's also thank TSR Injury Law, 612 TSR Time. Steve Terry always tells me to keep it short. 612 TSR Time, 612 TSR Time. Nas Reed. That's all you need to know. If you're injured, call the number. They will help you. They won't charge you unless they win your case, and they win lots of cases. That's why they've become such a great Minnesota business success story, and we love the fact they help so many people. So the popular rumor out there, I know because I do out-state radio hits and I hear about all the rumors, is that Ant is recruiting Kevin Durant to join the Timberwolves, and the Timberwolves are considering trading Karl-Anthony Towns for Kevin Durant. It's one of those things that, there's a 0.01% chance of it happening, so you can't say, oh, that would never happen. But I would assume that you don't think that's a likelihood.
No, I'm not holding my breath for that, Jim. Certainly, there's definitely an affinity between the two of them. You do look at Phoenix and what happened in the last season, and you think maybe they're vulnerable for some sort of blow up eventually, and to reconfigure their roster. But the Suns owner is a young new guy. He's very brash and very determined, and he wants to make big splashes, and so he traded for Kevin Durant. I don't think that he's in a hurry to trade him away unless things just go really, really poorly at the start of this season. So I don't believe that is a scenario that is realistic at this time. They just signed Tyus Jones as another way to add more talent around Durant and Booker and Beal, and so they want to contend in Phoenix, and they're in no hurry to break that up. That said, that kind of also gets into the Anthony Edwards conversation that we're having here, Jim, though, is, there would be times where I think fans would be concerned about any Timberwolf, but, Anthony Edwards or anyone going and playing Team USA. We always hear these stories about how Olympians get together and they click and they say, yeah, let's work together. Let's team up somewhere. Let's make this happen. And so there would be, I think, generally some concern from Timberwolves fans. All right, who's going to steal Ant away from us? Is it going to be KD, LeBron, Steph, Halliburton? Who's going to, click with Ant and say, hey, come on, get out of Minnesota. You got to come and team up with me. But I think the overwhelming sentiment right now is that Edwards is going to be the one recruiting someone to Minnesota, like Durant. And I think that there is just an element of charisma and charm about him and a little bit of defiance. I do think from getting to know him over these last few years, I just think that he is the kind of player that's going to say, I'm not going somewhere else. You're coming to me. This is my team. This is what I've helped build. And we're going to win with me, and you can get on board. And if you want to win, come join me. Not if I want to win, I got to go somewhere else. And so I think that's a very different and sort of refreshing angle to think about on the Edwards front, is that I don't think right now the Timberwolves are vulnerable for losing him to someone else recruiting him away. I think that he's going to be in recruiting mode, trying to get more help to come here. And that's just kind of the force of personality that he is, and the way that he operates on a daily basis is just I'm the one, and you guys can come and join me. I'm not coming to join y'all. I think that's a big part of the Anthony Edwards kind of persona.
Let's talk more about his place in the game and what's actually happening in Paris. First, though, want to hear more about your experience with True Vision Institute.
Yeah, I'm almost a week into having LASIK surgery at True Vision Institute in Bloomington. And, before the whole experience, you hear people who have had LASIK and they say, oh, it changes your life. It's the best thing ever. And I was always kind of is it really though? I've worn glasses and contacts since I was in fourth grade. I just kind of kept on going with the flow of it. That was the easier thing to do. Just keep on every couple years. Here's a couple years, $200, here's $500 to get new glasses, new sunglasses with prescription, new contacts. And finally, I just got to the point where I was just tired of doing that over and over again. And so I said, you know what, I'm going to do this. And I went into True Vision, went through their whole consultation. They took me through all of the steps. They brought up all of the options that were available, not just LASIK, but we all settled on LASIK being the right option for me. And now I'm a week in, and I am telling you, it is life-changing. Like, it is so much easier to not have my glasses on, to not be fumbling with them in the morning, to not have to put contact lenses in, and to not have to worry about, hey, in 2 years, my prescription is going to fade and I got to go back in and get new glasses and find the new fashionable ones again and try and, plunk a bunch of money down for that. So now I'm taken care of. I see great. The procedure itself was super easy. I went in. Dr. Chu is one of the most calming, easy-going doctors I've ever been around, and he kind of really allayed any anxiety that I had about the procedure. It only took literally like 3 minutes to complete the procedure. I went home, I slept for an evening, and I got up the next day and I was seeing clearly and beautifully. I would recommend it to anyone. The people at True Vision are so friendly, so welcoming, so knowledgeable, so easy to work with. Go to truevision.com to set up a consultation and see if this is right for you. But you will not regret it. Tell them the John Krasinski Show sent you, and get on with changing your life. I wish I would have done this 10 years ago.
Let's go from talking about being short-sighted to your favorite shorts, Shepherd Goods and Lamb Chops clothing line. That's not a great line, but I tried to come up with something. I probably failed.
Nice transition. SG Lamb.
Yeah, go ahead.
SGLambchops.com. Go to SGLambchops.com. Put in the promo code JONK20 for 20% off anything there. Super fashionable casual wear. Hoodies, shorts, t-shirts, hats, sweatpants, anything that you could want. They're super high quality, locally owned. Jordan and Craig do a great job of marketing, of being a part of this community. They're courtside at Lynx and Timberwolves games. They support, they are invested in this community, and they make super high quality, very fashionable stuff. They're my favorite shorts that I've ever worn. I love their t-shirts. I love their hoodies. JONK20 for 20% off at SGLambchops.com for Shepherd Goods and Lamb Chops clothing.
So what is Anthony Edwards' status and rank in the world of basketball right now, in the NBA?
Yeah, it's funny because clearly, I think locally I think he has this city in the palm of his hand, and when you look at the way that his teams have started to have success, at a rate that is uncommon for the Timberwolves. He's made the playoffs in 3 of his 4 years, just made the Western Conference Finals. That you say for sure, top 5, top 6 player in the league. Now, the depth of talent in the NBA is about as great as it's ever been, certainly, in the modern era. And so you start to look at, candidates for that list, and the list gets pretty long pretty quickly. You're talking Luka, Nikola Jokic, Giannis, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, LeBron, Jalen Brunson is on the list, Embiid is on the list. There's just a lot of dudes that are really, really good, and franchise type players, which is why the NBA is looking to expand, which is why, there's a level of parity, I think, in the league that has not been here for ages, because there's so much talent. But I think that right now, Anthony Edwards is right on that fringe of, top 10 status. And I think that there is an anticipation that by the end of this upcoming season, he's going to be cemented in the top 10 for sure, and hopefully climbing up near the top 5. It is very hallowed ground. It's hard to crack in the NBA, but he does have that ability. And when you talk to the people around him who are spending time with him every single day, who see kind of what the work that he's putting in, he is auditioning for that role, for that status right now. He scored 26 points, the other day for Team USA. It was the leading scorer, but you also see that he's often one of the last players on the court after practice, getting extra shots up. There's just a real hunger for him and a belief in him that he's going to be top 5 before too long here. And that would be an achievement, in any sort of era of the NBA, but in this era, if he's able to crack that, then you're just talking about rarefied air, because there are so many great players right now, and it is hard to kind of jockey for position in that hierarchy. But he has the capability to get there very, very soon. He is kind of knocking on that door right now.
Yeah, fascinating. Do you think playing for Steve Kerr brings anything new to him? I mean, Chris Finch, I think, we both agree he's an excellent coach. Mm-hmm. But Steve Kerr has won NBA championships. He's coached more internationally. Is there anything he can add to Ant's repertoire?
The interesting thing about playing for Kerr and the way that Kerr is coaching Team USA is that it feels like he is really trying to bring a lot of the Golden State elements to this team, regardless of the different kind of roster that he has. There are going to be some coaches who in a similar role would really kind of tailor their offense to the players that they have and go about it in different ways. Steve Kerr still wants ball movement, still wants cutting away from the ball, screening away from the ball, and a lot of those factors that made the Warriors a dynasty in this league, that really kind of emphasized Steph Curry's and Klay Thompson's strengths and those kinds of things. So it's a cerebral type of basketball that I think is good exposure for Ant. I think that Finch plays things just a little bit differently, but certainly he is another cerebral coach who really does want to do more than, let's say, the Mavericks, who just put the ball in Luka's hands and say, take us where you want to go. He wants more complexity. He wants kind of more movement. And so it's a slightly different from what Steve Kerr does, but Ant being in that position all summer long with Steve Kerr, with Eric Spoelstra, with Ty Lue, like all, excellent coaches, I think will help him in one of the sort of shortcomings of his game is defense away from the ball. And also, I think that getting him moving without the ball is really important as well. And so if he can pick up some of those elements even more and take that into this season, and apply some of that into what Chris Finch wants to do, I think that would really be a help for a Timberwolves offense that is trying to make a huge jump this year from 17th in the rankings and in offensive efficiency last season. They want to be in the top 10, and that would be a very quick path to major improvement if you can kind of activate Ant more off the ball than they already have.
A couple more notes. My band is playing Friday night at Licks after the Twins game. If you're in the area, drop on by. Also, Cheryl Reeve has been talking for years about the fact that the world of basketball is getting better and more competitive. And then she goes to Paris and disproves that point. USA women's basketball team has 2 teams that could win the gold.
Yeah, it's, I think who was I listening to? And it wasn't Cheryl, but it was someone else in the basketball podcast sphere, whatever it was. But Oh, it's Mark Spears, and he was talking on a podcast as well, and I agreed with him that the men's side of the game has certainly leveled the playing field. I still think the USA, when they have all of their pieces, is the prohibitive favorite, as we have seen so far in this tournament. But the competition level is very much very much increased from certainly 1992 when the Dream Team showed up and everyone just wanted pictures with them. Now the rest of the world is out to beat the USA, and they believe that they can. Germany, France, Australia, Canada, there's a bunch of them. Even South Sudan we saw, I thought, Jim, was like really impressive in terms of how competitive they were, and they didn't back down against the Americans. So it's a bit of a tougher road for the men. For the women, they're not on the same timeline as the men yet. The women are head and shoulders above anyone else out there, and the depth of talent across the world is not nearly what it is in the men's side. Now, I do think that eventually that will change and that will catch up. Maybe Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, and all of that will kind of help expedite the women's side, and that coming into to more. But we're still, I don't know, a decade behind, I think, from the women in terms of international competition as where the men are, and so they're putting their feet on throats over there, just as kind of anyone expected.
No doubt about it. Good stuff. Happy birthday, Anthony Edwards. We'll be back next week. Thanks for listening to the John Krasinski Show and TalkNorth.com.